Call this meeting to order, please. This is the regular meeting for the Livingston Parish Council, May 11th, 2017. Ms. Sandy, would you call the order, please?
Mr. Lovell. Mr. Averett.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
We'll go down here by you. Come on back.
Please stand. I think our parish president, Mr. Ricks, is going to do the invocation day.
Please. Dear Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for our men and women who serve in the service, Lord, to protect our freedom to assemble. We ask, Lord, that your will be done in every decision, that we will always look to you for guidance and follow that, Lord. Sometimes it's very easy to ask, a lot harder to listen. We ask, Lord, as we come to you in open prayer, that we listen. For us, in your name we pray.
Amen.
Thank you, Lee.
Mr. Talbot, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to remind everyone, please, if you have a cell phone, please put it on mute or turn it off, please, so it won't interrupt anyone. And anytime we have public input, and you want to address an item on the agenda, please raise your hand, be recognized, and we will call you forward and hear what you have to say. Number 7 is presentations. Melody Nab? Melody Nab? Come on up.
Mr. Tracy, I asked that we put this on the agenda.
Okay.
Ms. Nab, it has a business, works in my district, but I think she covers outside of Louisiana, the whole United States, different spots. And it's regarding cybersecurity and some stuff that I think she has things to do, even does stuff with Livingston Parish. So if you don't mind, I'd like to let her take a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank
The floor
you.
is yours.
Apologies for my voice, but I lost it today. I'm sure everyone is familiar with identity theft and data breaches. And in 2015, there was 781 data breaches. In 2016, there was 1,081. And then this year, so far, we have over 600. Identity theft is not going to stop, and it's a crime when it happens. There's some hacktivist groups that are targeting our public officials and our law enforcement across the United States. It is the Sovereign Citizens, the Anonymous Group, and the LULSEC Group. We just had a notification today that we have more public officials that are actually targeted because if they can get their identities, they're distracting their work. So I've contracted with the FBI National Academy Associates, and right now they're actually recommending me to go into different law enforcement agencies and associations across the United States. What we do is we provide a service through Kroll out of New York, and this service is the most comprehensive in the nation. Of course, we already have some of our municipalities, our parishes, they're already proactive with us. What we want to do is just make sure that people are aware of the dangers. So if we're proactive in the preventative areas, we're not reacting to the catastrophic conditions that identity theft causes. So what I'd like to do is just be work closer with you and your agencies and your departments and your homes and your private businesses to let you know exactly what's happening and what can be done in those private areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8 is the adoption of the minutes from the April 27, 2017 regular meeting of the council. Any discussion? Make a motion. I have a motion by Mr. Ard, second by Mr. King. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 9 is adopt a resolution to call for an election for Gravity Drainage District Number 7 property tax. Mr. Mack.
Yes, I'm so happy to say that I'd like to ask the council to make a motion to pass a resolution tonight to grant Gravity Drainage District 7 permission to put on the November ballot a property tax. And we've talked about this many times in the past, how great it's going to be to establish gravity drainage districts. for the 75–80% of Livingston Parish that doesn't currently have gravity drainage districts. And want to make that motion. I'd like to also, I got my partners in crime here, Jeff Averett and Tab Lobel with Gravity Drainage District 7, if they have any more to say. Or
I think a lot of the issues we bump into have to do with gravity drainage, so if put it out there and let the people decide if they want to fund this district.
That's right.
I agree very much.
Is that a motion?
I made the motion, yes, sir.
Second by Mr. Averett. Ms. Sanders, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Item 10 is a resolution call for an election for Gravity Drainage District number 6.
That's correct. Gravity Drainage District 7 is basically south of the interstate, from where the gravity drainage districts that currently are established over on the west, all the way to the east Livingston Parish property lines. So that's south of the interstate, and Gravity Drainage District 6 will be north of the interstate, and we'll capture the entire parish once these taxes are passed. And I'd like to make a motion to give Gravity Drainage District number 6 permission to put a 5 mil property tax and a half-cent sales tax on the November ballot also. I'd like to make that motion that we pass that resolution.
Motion by Mr. Mack. Second by Mr. Ard. Ms. Sanders, would you call for the vote, please?
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Averett?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes. Can I ask you, Shane, can I ask you a point of clarification on
ahead, buddy.
the District 6 tax?
Yep.
Are the 5 mil and half cent going to be tied together, or are they going to be two separate elections?
It's two separate.
So they got to vote yes on both to implement
Yes, they do.
those? Okay, that's all I wanted, that's all.
And we definitely need both of them to pass.
Well, I understand, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a totally up or totally down, they had options.
So one could pass, one could fail.
That's right, but we really
I
need
know
both of them
over
to
in our
pass.
districts over here, we get a lot of work done with these gravity drainage districts.
Oh, yeah.
And so if they do pass, I know it'll be great. I grew up in Holden, you grew up in Holden, y'all all know.
It's going to be one of the greatest things ever happened to East Side of Livingston Parish.
If we can open them drains up and let it get out of there.
Well, and the
That's
fact
right.
that you have the money there for the, whenever catastrophes hit,
To
and
fix
to
it.
make that matching funds or the portions, you can get a lot done for a lot less money.
That's right.
And also you got Layton in with 5 people trying to work the whole parish that don't have gravity drainage, if I'm not mistaken. It's just 5 people can't
You
handle it.
can't, no, you can't.
Cannot handle it.
That's a big old parish.
Everybody on the east side ought to be lobbying for this election to get passed, because those of you who currently have gravity drainage districts, you kind of get double dip. Because you're paying for gravity drainage, and then part of your other sales tax, other revenue, other villages is getting used in other parts of the parish. So you ought to be supporting those people to help them get their tax passed.
Definitely.
Small price to pay for some, security if it, it can
Approved.
rain in, get on out.
Well, and your discussion has been, let's start at the bottom of the parish and clean it out and let the water flow on out. And I think that's the direction we're heading. So we got to get some stuff. Can't create a bottleneck. Let's clean it out.
We'll work on making sure the word gets out.
There's many great things to be achieved once these gravity drainage districts are established.
There is. They'll see it too.
Item 11 is a parish president's report.
Parish president.
He's giving it to Bubba Harris.
You was trying to straighten old
Sorry
boy
about
out?
that. No, he summoned me.
I said try.
Item A, introduction of orders to declare certain immovable or movable property equipment no longer needed for public services. This is something we routinely do, and I need y'all to support that with a vote. It's the introduction of an ordinance.
A 1995 tractor. Yeah, we probably need to get rid of that.
I got one like that.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Talbot,
I'll second.
second by Mr. King.
Let's go with
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You need to read it?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance 17-17. It's an ordinance to declare certain movable property equipment no longer needed for public purposes, provide for its sale by internet sales and/or public auction, and provide for terms of sale. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on May the 25th. And everybody voted yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Keeps me straight.
Item B, authorization to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Livingston Parish Convention and Visitors Bureau for pilots and signs along the river and waterways, not to exceed, our portion would be not to exceed $5,000. And I think I've met with, well, actually, Tab's met with me on this, and I think Eric here was.
Yeah.
From tourism. Tab, you want to say a few things about what we're doing here?
Basically, down in the southern part of the parish, we have a waterway, a road system made out of water, and a lot of our signs got washed away. And there's really not a funding for that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that I'm very thankful for tourism and the parish for being willing to do this, but I would like to see eventually some a little bit more long-term funding go on for these waterway systems.
So we can't just call
somehow.
DPW and tell them to go put a sign up.
No, but what we do hope to do is piggyback off of this start and hopefully through some grants and other things that we talked about.
We've got a natural resource here that's, I think, like none other in the world. And if you talk to a lot of those guys that were spending a whole bunch of money here this past weekend for the Tickfall 200, they'll tell you the same thing. I read an article today from two guys that truck boats all the way from California, and they said they will be back every year that it goes on. They said they've never seen anything like it.
It's the biggest in the world.
And the thing of it is we take it for granted. I mean, I've been fishing, skiing, swimming in that river and the rivers around here my whole life. And
well, we went out with Wildlife and Fisheries, the parish president from Tangipahoa Parish and myself, and rode around, and they were pointing out some of these different signage and things. And through the changes in the water and the different storms that come through, we really do need to start giving back a little bit more in support of our waterways.
Who's going to do the installation, like?
We got, the only bid we got was...
We've got several bids.
Well, the one I had here was Sharp Brothers out of Springfield.
Yeah, but we've got several guys.
I think you've gotten some more in since I saw this.
That's right. We got Perry saying we got 3 bids now. So.
I know of a couple people. I personally, after the weekend, people were bringing their boats home with propellers tore slap up because they get in the wrong spot and get some concrete pillows that just eat the propellers up. And then I saw a lower unit knocked off. And I think there's a lot of spots that need some signage like that. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard of some tales through the week where people may have knocked.
Well, we're constantly trying to help and get things up, but
this would solve
Councilman Lobell's right. We need to establish some secure funding.
So you can keep it going, yeah.
To really stay on top of it.
It's not a big,
It is just a hazard.
it's not a high ticket item. It doesn't take a whole lot. Just, put up a few signs, but.
And so the tourism,
We're going to split it 50/50. Our portion would be not to exceed, as theirs, not to exceed 5,000.
okay.
Both kicking in 5,000 to do the work.
And then you'll see after that.
Yeah.
What funding mechanism, okay. I like that.
These waterways are a big asset to our
Eric, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, like I said, we lost a lot of signs during the last flood. Bridges and all, mainly, I don't know. Need to be replaced, but these real bad, so yeah.
You got people parking their boats at Hilltop, for instance, and people blowing through the idle zone, and so their boats are getting messed up because they tied up there. Just, the sign is not in the proper spot.
And also, y'all have an ordinance, these idle zones, like bridges and business places and everything. It's pretty hard over here. It's really a law.
Didn't the Waterway Commission have something to do with that?
Well, that's who we're
You're
trying
on the
to
commission.
eventually help get.
That's
some
what these
funding.
guys are.
And then they can
And
identify
they're
where
going
it
to
needs.
take over and actually do it, but we want to
Okay.
help them get
So,
some
all right,
funding.
cool.
Mr. Lobell, you think this would be a good thing?
Absolutely.
Or is that a motion?
That is a motion, sir.
Motion by Mr. Lobell, second by Mr. Avery. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you,
All right.
council. Thank you, sir.
That's all you had.
I just want to get on my river soapbox for a minute. So there you go.
Ain't nothing wrong with that box. That box is always
We're
true.
proud of you down there.
Item 12 is the Office of Homeland Security, Emergency Preparedness. Mark's not, Mr. Harold's not here tonight. But if you look, go to the addendum.
Okay, he's got it.
Okay.
It says, A1, adopt resolutions to approve contract extension for debris removal until September 1st, 2017 with Whit O'Brien LLC to authorize the parish president to sign. If you remember correctly, this was a thing we did. I think he gave him like a 45-day extension.
This was the second part, I believe.
Yeah, well, he called me today, he said he wanted to go ahead and do it to the end of the contract, so.
Right.
So-
Well, I think they got their paperwork in order, because we got a big
I think
check.
so.
We got a big check from FEMA because we dispersed it last month. So I think because of that, he wants to,
Do it.
now that they're
He
correct.
let that fire at work.
Well,
Got a motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second. Second by Mr. Ard. Ms. Sanders, call the vote.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Mr. Averett.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yeah.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Okay,
We're gonna defer.
we got peppermint in my mouth.
We're gonna defer 13.
Yes,
Yeah, because they didn't,
13, the planning commission didn't meet because of weather,
and then they didn't.
so their meeting got pushed to the 17th, I think. So we'll pick this up at the next meeting so they can meet beforehand. So, item 14,
Yeah, it is.
Department of Public Works, Mr. Sam's not here. It's a discussion to amend LPR number 07-049, Johnny Lane and Brandon Avenue. Mr. Harris.
Yes, I had talked to Mr. Sam about this, and what had happened is you had Brandon Lane, which the parish blacktop years ago, and off of that, they had a no-name road, and it never was really named properly, and it was Johnny Lane. That's what the people called it. So I like to go ahead and continue that as Johnny Lane off of Brandon.
Got a street sign up over there already?
No, I was there this afternoon to look at it.
So we're gonna need to get
Yeah,
Sam to put a
yeah.
street sign. Once we name it, then we.
Yeah. It's essentially naming an unnamed road.
Right.
I second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Wascom. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item 15, amend section 13-67.1, commercial development buffer zones to mandate type of fence. This is an introduction of an ordinance. Mr. Harris.
Well, we discussed that in the ordinance committee tonight, and do we want to read all that out?
What, we can just briefly,
By title.
Well, but we amended what's currently you have it in front of y'all because.
I just typed it up too before.
Okay, because Chris recommended that we
Let her
start
read
getting
it
this
again.
wording uniform, so we're gonna make all of them uniform.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, ma'am.
You have to have how it is before you.
That's the wrong one.
What?
This is, we're discussing we're not discussing the house.
Oh, I'm sorry. I took my glasses off.
Glasses. Fine. See, I told you we didn't need it.
John, could you hold that for Sandy? She didn't have her glasses on.
Commercial development.
Hey, you just stole glasses.
I just borrowed it. Here, she's as blind as I am.
I turned 52 and I can't see anything now. I could see something 2 weeks ago.
I can see that.
Look, now I got to hold it out.
I said it's orange. Well, maybe don't.
Yeah, you making me laugh out there.
but just to help clarify, guys, the current ordinance, this 1367.1, you know, the fence, the 8-foot fence that's required between the commercial property and the residential property, it just says solid fence. So we want to go back and clarify what type of solid fence, okay?
Because if you, because we have another ordinance on the books that addresses conflicts, you know, buffer zones between conflict uses, and that deal outlines exactly what we've got written here.
Right.
So what we're trying to do, if you go to the buffer zone on multifamily, and you go to the buffer zone on conflict uses, they're identical, and this one was different. So we're gonna bring this one into, so all the buffer zone fence wording should be the same when we get done.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. Trying to be consistent,
Look, yeah, it helps.
no conflicts. I make a
I think we
You
should
make the
have
motion?
her-
Yeah, I'll
we
make
should
it.
have her read it by title. What you think?
that sounds great.
All right.
Okay, this is proposed ordinance 17-18, an ordinance to amend chapter 13, planning and development, section 13-67.1, commercial development buffer zones, part C of the Code of Ordinances entered for the parish of Livingston. The public hearing will be on May 25th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Ms. Gill. All right.
You're sitting kind of low, Tracy.
Hmm?
You're sitting kind of low.
I know, I don't need to be jacked up. I'm good. I'm good with my height. You have a motion? Motion
I
by
got it.
Mr.
All for
Avery, second by Mr. Harris.
No, it's other way around.
Well,
That's
Was it
good.
motion by Mr.
Whatever.
Harris, second by Mr. Avery.
Yeah.
Motion.
Mr. Bubba Harris made the motion.
motion.
Jeff Everett made the second. Wow.
Let's make this complicated. How about
Yeah. Well, it was important.
that? Ms. Till, would you call the vote?
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
All right.
What's next?
Item 16,
Oh, yes.
add penalty for violations to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish. This is an introduction to ordinance. Mr. Frog Albert.
A few months ago, we had a little situation. Somebody came and bought a shed permit. And the shed permit turned into a full-blown business. And ultimately, when DPW went out there, or planning went out there to address it, they realized they were able to negotiate with the guy and get some stuff done. But we realized that he had little or no authority to go stop something that was under construction. And so in an effort, in talking to Mr. DiGirolamo, we amended the chapter 13 of the ordinance, and he looked at it and felt comfortable with it. Basically, what we're gonna do is if you violate the planning ordinance, the director of planning now has some teeth that he can utilize to get you back in line. That's ultimately but it doesn't do any good to have laws if you can't make people abide by them. So that's basically what this is to create a situation. Now there's some other areas that we could go, address. Mr. Moody had talked to us about that, it says you can do this, it says you can do that, but this actually brings those penalties to this specific ordinance, which I think, Chris, you felt was the best thing to have done?
Yeah. Just a little bit more detail too. I mean, to increase the penalty, we're going to say that every day that you're in violation is going to be a separate penalty, and it's going to be $500 a day. So we're putting some meat in here to enforce the rules that should be followed. Okay, so that's the intent here. In order to have a civilized society, you got to have rules and laws to abide by, and we're trying to enforce them. So, you made the motion, Gary?
I was gonna let her read it, and then we'll do whatever.
My bad.
So this will be proposed ordinance 17-19. An ordinance to amend and reenact Chapter 13, Article 1, the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish by adding section 13-3 to be titled Penalty for Violations of this chapter, as more fully set out herein, and removing section 13-69, Violation and Penalty of Article 4, Division 4 of this chapter. The public hearing will be on May the 25th at 6 p.m.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Talbot.
I second.
Second by Mr. Mack. Ms. Sandy, would you call it?
Mr. Lovell.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Talbot.
Yes.
Item 17, ratify the Town of Albany's board appointments for Fire Protection District Number 1. Mr. Mack.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion that we do that. Let me read that. This is for Miss Debbie Arsenault to be on the fire board, Fire District 1 board. And to the best of my knowledge, Sandy, that was a board appointment voted on by the board itself, appointed by the board itself. Go ahead, make a comment.
State law allows municipalities and the parish to have one appointment.
Right.
Board gets an appointment, and the town of Albany gets
That's right.
2 appointments. So
That's right.
we're just ratifying what
We're
they've
just-
already done.
Yeah.
To make our records
Match.
right.
Yep. So I'll make a motion that we ratify to put her on the board, Fire District 1.
Motion by Mr. Mack.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lobel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 18, discussion for master gravity drainage plan. Mr. Master.
Guys, there's some more work that needs to be done here, and some research. We need to table this to another day. So I'm asking you, Tracy, let's table this to another day.
You got it. Item 19, District Attorney's Report. Mr. Moody.
It's listed here as the Isabella Lakes Community Development District. I think you all know what a development district is. This is one that was formed, but not yet. The subdivision was not completed. It's been sitting empty. The property's out of commerce. There's a new developer, new investors who would like to revitalize that, and they have a plan to do so. And their long-term plan will be to essentially dissolve the district, because what they plan to do is bring this subdivision with all the roads and all the improvements up to your current standards, and then ask that it be accepted as a subdivision, and then we would be responsible for the maintenance, and then we could dissolve the community development district once we're satisfied that there's not any debt that's still outstanding. So we have to be dissatisfied of that, but that step is further down the road. The very first step to make any of this happen is they're asking that you appoint 2 additional members to the board of supervisors. And Mr. Art or somebody has people in mind? Yeah.
Whose district is it?
Tracy, no, it's in Tracy's. Isabella Lakes is right.
Right north of Walker.
Well,
Chris,
I got a question, and you and I talked a little bit outside, and maybe you can. Okay, so this deal was formed in like 2006, 2005, 2006, something like that, and they have not filed their returns or proper work with the legislative auditor. So I'm pretty confident that as of right now, this is not an active community development. It's not even an active form of government,
Right.
because of the fact that it's been inactive.
Right.
So I mean, Jim's our bond guy that handles all this stuff. I'm just wondering if it's currently not active and it's currently not a recognized form of government because the legislative auditors closed it down. Do we have the authority to appoint members and introduce an ordinance to designate a new registered office if it's not even a current legal entity of the parish because it's been declared inactive by the legislative auditor?
Well, that's happened before for other boards, and they can become reactivated. So I think this is one step. They plan to become reactivated and filed all the necessary filings. They understand that. But I don't know the answer to the question about Mr. Ryan. I understand your concern that we wouldn't want to be taking on liability.
Yeah, I mean, he's our guy that we go to for legal advice or bond advice with respect to this. And I'm just wondering, since Jim isn't here to speak on it, if we'd be better off to defer this to the next meeting and then have Jim come speak and tell us, or send a designee or have a bond attorney come explain to us, what best would, suit the parish in this particular situation. I'm just asking.
That is within your discretion. I mean, I think that would be being overly careful. We can always stop this and not dissolve it, and, because ultimately if it exists, it exists. If they can reactivate it, they can reactivate it. So we don't have any liability until we try to dissolve it. This is not the step to dissolve yet.
But if we don't add these 2, they can't even get started.
Right. And they have some deadlines that the developer and the finance people have, they wanted to meet. So they had a little bit of urgency here, and Mr. Glasscock might be able to speak to that.
Let Wayne come explain to us exactly what their Wayne, you prepared to talk to us about what the deadlines are and why this happened to happen tonight?
We under, a deadline of getting anything finished, as any businessman would, as promptly and as efficiently as we can. To answer your question about the district, though, there's 2 ways, and you're right. After 5 years, had they not received a permit, had it been inactive, they hadn't held a meeting, it basically is dissolved. But you're not going to be able to get clear and merchantable title because it's still got the cloud on it. That cloud being the district. The district, had it been developed in its original form, would have required each lot owner to pay $100 a month extra in property tax to fund the district, to, pay back the bonds and the interest on the bonds. What we plan to do, and again, I hadn't talked to Jim and our friends, I should have, I guess, he's the only person in Louisiana I hadn't talked to about this. We want our third law firm, and what we decided to do was start from the bottom up. So we hired a big law firm in New Orleans who represents all the major banks in the state, and said, how could we get a clear and merchantable title? And that we do not want to hold the district, which was our option. We could have held the district and put that $100 a month on each lot. But we didn't think that fair, since we've got a discounted rate on the bonds and all this stuff. So the way to do this is to dissolve the district. That takes the $100 a month off of the district.
So your group's acquired all the bonds to date?
Yes, sir. I'm on this almost 2 years.
Okay.
It's been a very
So
complicated
you have
place.
to
And we've-
reactivate it to dissolve it, because it's not
Right.
active.
Basically, what we do is we could have went to that, option of just allowing it to be dissolved. But we asked around, as a banking attorney, as a banker, would you lend money on this? Could you get a clear and merchantable title? They said no. Even though the district's dissolved, the hickey's still on the property. You got to get rid of the hickey. So the way that we're doing that, and the way that we approach, I think Chris agrees, it's been a long and complicated process here, is to reactivate the district, have the council appoint 3 people, if y'all want to put this property back into commerce, and appoint 3 people. My partner and I will serve on that board. It's a board of 5 people. We'll have to change the address because it was at the previous developer's address. By law, we would have to change the address, this council will, to whatever. So we figured if we got 3 people here to serve on that board, then we can have the meeting here. That meeting, all you would do is basically vote to dash on the property, not dissolve the district, but the dash on the property to the new developers. And that way we can get a clear title down the end. And we're still probably a year away from doing this, but this is, and again, we've talked to the people that do 70% of all the bonds in the state. We hired them. They burned through a $10,000 retainer. We burned through another $10,000 retainer. We finally got this guy, and the way we did that was from the bottom up instead of the top down.
So Chris, your recommendation is for us to appoint to and introduce ordinance to designate,
This office is the office for the district.
to make the council office the office for the district?
Well, you can pick any address you want. You just need to have an address. So we thought if,
Or you make your, I mean, what is your recommendation?
well, that you appoint 3 people and you make this the address, just because I didn't have any other address in mind.
Okay.
3 and then the 2 additional, the 2 that.
The developers are on the commission, I think.
Yeah, we're already on the board, but we will have to recluse ourselves because we have conflict of interest.
They can't
So there'll
vote
be
to
3
do the dash on. They
disinterested
need
people.
3.
Those disinterested people would vote to take the dash on.
So, I mean, council members could be appointed.
Yeah, any of the 3 councilmen, it's in Jeff's district. Oh, it's in Tracy's district? Oh, we'll do it.
It doesn't have to be council.
Yeah, not just.
No, I didn't know that. They've been telling me how long. If it was in your district, I didn't know.
I mean, it sounds like to me it's going to be a good thing.
Hey, I would be honored if it was any of you
Yeah,
guys.
it's been sitting there. I drive past this thing all the time, and it's a big, nice piece of property. It needs to be developed. We can get property taxes and everything out of there.
And they can
It's a
dissolve the
mess.
CDD, and then the parish is going to
It's been a mess for 2 years.
Won't be any bonds to pay back or
property
anything. Just-
taxes and all that
There
good
you
stuff.
go.
Man, I make the motion.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to do these.
Well, I don't think we
And 2
make-
sets,
make-
I and 1 and 2.
Yeah, we need the names of the members, so.
Mr.
Okay.
Chris.
Oh, we don't have anybody.
I mean, I'll be in there.
Tracy?
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
It's in my
Yeah.
district. So. Who else?
It's almost Jeff.
I'll step up and be on there with you.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Can't be a whole lot of work. We just got to get it done. And
Dale Strom and
you got some?
Dale Strang.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Those
That's
two,
the 2.
those 2 need to be on there, and then you need 3 more beyond
Okay.
it.
So it's
So who's
Dale
this
Stram,
supposed to it?
Douglas Glasscock, myself, Mr. King, and 1 other person.
Somebody?
Take it as me.
Take it as you.
Jeff R.
Lord, all them walking feet.
Get called on.
Hell.
I
got enough to do.
Did we get a motion on that?
I'm not going to show up. I just have to be on board.
You got to read it.
We include our physical address as the domicile and our mailing address as well in the resolution
It doesn't matter.
for both.
You get the
We're doing
mail
2
at the physical
actions.
address. You get mail delivered through the physical address? We'll use the
Yeah.
I
mailing.
think it needs to be a physical address as
Yeah.
well as a mailing address.
Yeah, put both in.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Mack,
Yep.
second by Mr. Harris. Ms. Sandy, would you call the vote, please?
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Item
Thank you,
2.
gentlemen, and if I may, while I'm here, we run your TV station, as you well know, and for years, we've had people say, look, you should submit some of these programs for awards. We submitted our first program this year in January, and we won the national award for the best documentary in the country.
Nice. Good job. Thank you, guys. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
So we still got item 2, or?
Yeah, unless, did
Sandy,
you
you gotta
include
read-
2 in the first one, Sandy? Could have done them together. Did you have 2 as part of the motion?
Yeah, I thought we did both of them in the
Okay.
same motion.
You read it by title, or you got?
No, it's not, it doesn't need to be an ordinance. They suggested an ordinance, but it's not necessary.
So we
To
can
take
go-
this action can be done by resolution.
Okay,
All right.
All right.
so we're done. We did 1 and 2 together.
Right,
Okay.
that's all I have.
All right, item 20 is the committee reports.
Yes, we're going to have another ordinance meeting if you guys would like to have one. 28 days from today at 5 o'clock.
We all look like we're having so much fun. I mean,
Don't want to miss it.
I enjoyed every minute of it. I really did.
I'd like to add to.
I see some long faces out there.
yes.
I'd like to add to
we should have it
the
on
ordinance
Saturday
committee meeting
afternoon.
report. I had spoken to the ordinance committee while we were here about an ordinance that we voted to send to the council meeting here tonight. What this was, and I'll just recap it again for those who maybe didn't hear it. What we have is specific, so each one of us has subdivisions in our district that are quality subdivisions where people have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes in these subdivisions, and the subdivisions are 15, 20 feet apart, or whatever they may be. And when that homeowner, when that subdivision was presented to the parish, it was accepted and approved, and everything's fine, but over time, sometimes a house may burn down, or there's a flood, or the house may get torn down. And that's actually happened in my district, and each one of us has those type subdivisions. And so when someone owns that property and there's no house there, they could move a mobile home in there. And that might not seem like a problem, but I assure you, your phone will never stop ringing. And if someone moves a mobile home into a subdivision that is, people have serious money invested into their investment there. So what we've, and then the parish has always taken the stance that, look, you have subdivision restrictions to protect your subdivision, but that's very unenforceable in most cases. And I don't want the parish, again, to get into subdivision restrictions, but I would like, but I worked with Ms. Sandy and put together a real clean, slick ordinance that basically says this. If you'll look at section 1314.6.1, it says this: it shall be unlawful for a person to reside in or use as a residence a mobile home in an established and named subdivision or newly developed named subdivision that was accepted by the parish for the intent of single-family dwelling houses. So it's, if you have a house in a subdivision, and the subdivision is established, and then one of these houses happens to be removed or torn down or gone, you can't stick a mobile home in the middle of this subdivision. And leave it there. And live in it. Now, this would be excluding hardship cases, which variances would easily take care of that, or flooding, or anything like that. This is just to allow the parish to protect subdivisions, because property ownership usually wins out when it comes to, unless the parish gets involved and helps these neighbors protect their neighborhood.
There's no doubt that the property within the subdivision should be utilized for the intent and purpose, and protect the value of the property owners.
Okay,
But
so is this Is this an introduction?
I was gonna
It is?
Can we do that without putting that on the ordinance, I mean, on the
Not
agenda?
on the agenda.
If it's not on the agenda, then actually we.
Just a discussion, that's all we want.
I thought if we had, if it was only the agenda of the committee, and it came out with a favorable committee report, that under the committee report deal, we could introduce it.
Yeah, if you had it itemized as a listed item.
It was itemized listed on the ordinance committee.
It can be done that way, because you need to let the public know it's coming up one way or the other, and apparently the public did find out about it. And
They showed up.
So this, so just to clarify, this is an introduction of an ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what, well, and
I mean, because if it isn't, then we're sure are introducing an ordinance right now.
In other words, you want to make sure we're doing it the correct order.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, what you had on the agenda was review, discussion, and recommendations on the prohibition of mobile homes, so.
So what is your legal opinion on this?
Well, you didn't say you were going to be considering the adoption of an ordinance.
Okay, so this is not an introduction of an ordinance.
Let's do it 2 weeks.
We'll do
Make
that.
it legal.
We'll introduce this
That's great.
legally in
So
2 weeks.
next-
June.
2 weeks from now.
Okay, 2 weeks from now.
Chris,
Yes, sir.
would you, if you had time, would you look at
Yeah,
this
I
and
will.
see if there's some problems with it? 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, I
there
think
seems-
you ought to be better defined single-family dwelling houses. I mean, that needs a little tweaking, I think.
If you could work on that, because that was some of the concern that we got, that was some of the feedback. I don't think anybody had any problem with the intent.
Right.
I think they had a problem with the wording. So if you could work on the legalese of that, so we'd be better served.
Okay.
You do that for us?
Sure.
John, and then in your closing statements and all, I like to say one thing about the resub of property. A lot of people have, I'm gonna say, acreage. They want to resub and make smaller lots, and it's more or less for a mobile home park. And the
Mr. Harris,
thing is,
we shouldn't be talking about this. If we're going to introduce it, we're going to introduce it. We'll introduce it in 2 weeks. Seriously.
no, I just want to talk about this because it's really nothing to do with that. I'm going to maybe bring it up.
All right.
But, what it is,
Councilman comment.
yeah,
Well, that's the
what it
next
is, it's in a named subdivision.
Yeah.
item. Okay, hang on a
And,
second. All right, item 21, councilman comments. Okay, go ahead, Mr.
okay. Didn't I say councilman comment?
Well,
But anyway, I think we need to look at that and maybe stop some of this resub for the simple reason is a lot of people have acreage right there. And they've got that acreage and they may have a mobile home on it. But down the road, they're looking at building a house on that piece of property. See what I'm saying?
I don't quite understand what you're saying, Mr. Bubba. Can you clarify that?
Yes. All right. You've got a piece of
I don't
property,
understand.
4 acres, I'm gonna say, whatever. And you're planning on building a house.
Okay.
All right, I've got 4 acres right beside you. I'm gonna re-subdivide that and make a trailer park out of it.
Well, you're gonna have to define trailer park.
Well, you mean
Because
3, 4.
Whatever
It's
I
not
can put
considered a
on
trailer park.
whatever I can put on 4 acres of land. As long as it has 1,600 square feet.
16,000 square feet.
Yeah,
And 80 foot on the building line.
right.
It's considered a parcel of property that you can put a residential structure on.
Right.
Yeah. So you're saying that we shouldn't be allowed to do that?
But-
We shouldn't be able to divide property 16,000
He
square
wants to
foot?
make sure it goes through the planning commission so that they can make recommendations.
Yes,
Instead of it just being done.
and not in a named subdivision either. So, see, this, what I'm talking about is in
It's
a named
almost like-
subdivision.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So what you're saying is all divisions of property should go through the planning commission?
I would think so, but they don't.
I think what he's trying to say is, some of these subdivisions nowadays, you get, they buy them 4 or 5 acres plots.
Oh, wait, maybe I'm
Named
misunderstanding.
subdivision.
You're talking about within a subdivision?
Yes.
Not just out on a road somewhere.
So you're talking about a 4 acre lot within a named subdivision?
Right,
That's right.
Ah, okay,
right.
I follow you.
Makes sense. Thank you, Mr.
We should be able to look at
Thank
that,
you.
let the planning commission look at it, not just let it get a minor resub and go on, because that way we'd have some say.
And to back that up, to me, if the original intent and it went through planning commission and they divided the lots up and it's all filed, it's a subdivision, then you shouldn't be able to go back and subdivide the lots at all.
Right.
That's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Yes, I totally agree with
But
that.
is that happening?
No.
Yes, it has happened.
Yes.
No, I mean, he was asking, is it happening where you couldn't? And I said, no, because it is happening.
Yeah, so in other words, that is happening.
I know lot one of a subdivision on my district that got divided into 3 lots.
Right.
But they didn't put
And they didn't have to put a sign up, they didn't do anything because it was 3 lots.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about it until it was done.
That ain't right.
Right.
That ain't right.
So in other words, we'll get a heads up on all of this and we can delve into it if we want to.
Yeah, never mind. I'm through with my comment.
All right,
I think we're stretching the limits of the definition of council comment.
Wait,
So,
wait. I did have one more thing to say.
of course, what are you saying?
There's a couple of Boy Scouts on the back row here tonight.
Oh. Civic Source.
And I just would like for them to stand up and introduce themselves and tell us why they're here. And I'd also like to welcome them for coming. I think it's great and just thanks, man. I
Tell us
really
what you
appreciate
learned tonight.
No, please.
Don't go to the ordinance.
Come on up here. He was listening, Marty. Hey, come introduce yourself. Let's hear it real clear.
I promise, Alan, I didn't tell him to make you come to the mic.
What's your name?
I'm Alan Gaine. This is Noah Tate.
All right. Where y'all from?
Albany, Springfield.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Awesome.
East side.
Y'all working on merit badges?
Yes, sir.
Which one?
He's working on communications. I'm working on citizen community.
Well, y'all earned them tonight. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Y'all enjoy yourself?
Yep.
So what did you learn from the meeting tonight?
Placing Bubba homes on tore down
Subdivisions.
Yes.
We got you.
Don't bust up any lots in the subdivision.
Thank you, guys.
Doing a good job.
We appreciate you.
Motion to adjourn?
No.
I'm done.
I'll make that
I'm
motion.
not done. I got something to say.
You gonna tell us about your fishing trip?
Is that in Councilman comment?
Wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. No, you go.
Councilman comments. It's a public notice. Livingston Parish currently has 85 adjudicated properties available for deposit at civicsource.com.
Absolutely.
The next online auction will be held on Wednesday, June 7th, 2017 at 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. To initiate the auction process on one of these properties, that's property spread out through the parish, the investor must place a $850 on each property deposit, which starts the prerequisite legal research and notification process that is required before the auction can take place. The pre-sale process takes approximately 120 days to complete. If the current property owner pays all delinquent taxes and fees during the pre-sale period, the depositor is refunded the deposit and the sale is halted. Visit civicsource.com to learn more. Properties start at $0 plus closing costs and include the title and insurance. This is a really good deal. If you see a piece of adjudicated property, civicsource.com.
I got a question on this too.
If you see a piece of property that you like and nobody else bids on it, you can get it real cheap.
They went around and they got signs up in front of every piece over the whole parish.
They must have $850. That's the problem.
I got a question on this.
What's that?
On the Civic Source deal with when I'm putting the signs up, do they need to tell the adjoining landowners about this?
Nope.
No.
They gotta read the sign.
Got a number on it, on the sign. If you go to Civic Source, punch that number in, bam, it pops up and shows you the map, everything about it.
So
How much money you gotta put up out front. There's really no way, I mean, a lot of times they can't even identify the neighboring owners. You know, if
Is there
people
a map
actually live there,
is there like a parish map that shows you where each one of them is by any chance?
nope, I don't think. Is there a parish on the adjudicated?
There
Or
should
only
be.
the ones that went to Civic Source?
Go to the Civic Source website, they do.
And it's got a map show up with the little dots?
Okay.
Do it.
Yeah.
We can't buy it.
That's
you can't-
civicsource.com. Any other comments? Nope. Now I need a motion to adjourn.
I did have one.
We got one from Gary.
Did you?
Come on, bro.
Are we not addressing this addenda?
Already did that.
Addendum?
We've already done that.
We did
Where
that
were
one.
you?
You were voting.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess.
It's all good then.
Okay, good.
So do I have a motion?
I'm just making sure it's covered.
Gary had to make the motion. Gary, you made that motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll second. Second? I'll second. Second by Mr. Ard. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Meeting adjourned.